Oh, crap. I always forget. It's either I forget on the PC or I forget on the actual microphone. But anyway, hi everybody, it's Ron. Happiest Marcintosh to everyone watching at home. Don't forget, welcome to Ron's Computer Videos. Tonight, I wanted to do something fun for a change. And what I wanted to try to do is maybe harken back to those old days of when Apple started and when the Macintosh kind of got off the ground, and just sort of investigate one of my my very favorite books on the subject, which is Revolution in the Valley. What's the full title? It's Revolution in the Valley, The Insanely Great Story of How the Mac Was Made. And that's by Andy Hertzfeld. So, yeah, you probably do see me behind me, a few seconds behind, just because I am going to monitor chat from over there to make sure that we don't have any technical issues, like the camera goes blank and I just talk to you guys for 20 minutes and never end up actually seeing what's going on. So let's talk to our friends in chat. Let's see who's here this evening. Going up to the top. Hey, Eric. Eric, good to see you. Eric's Edge. If you have not subscribed to his channel, definitely check that out. Branches Creations, not Brankus. I heard somebody today. Oh yeah, it was Sean. Actually, Sean from Action Retro. He's got a video where he's doing some stuff to like a classic, or I'm sorry, a color classic, and he says Brankus. And I don't know how that started. I think Bruce doubled down on it in a video, because he was like, yeah. Anyway, we're and he used it wrong on purpose, and then it stuck, I think. So, Mr. Macintosh is here, so there must have been a break this evening where Apple didn't release any new betas for OS X. Thomas Armstrong is here. Alex from Alex's Retro Shack is here. My good friend Adam Hulkintosh is here. Let's scroll down through. Toby Q, good to see you this evening. Hey, he says, evening, everyone. Evening to you too, Toby. Starbuck Tech is here. Good to see you. Jeremy, good to see you. Luxating Spleen. I don't know if you've been here before, but thanks for stopping by. Let's keep scrolling. Let's see who else is here. Yep, that's it for the moment. That's good. Hey, it's good to see everybody that is here. So yeah, the DuoDisc is back because it finally got cleaned up and retrobrighted, and I don't really have to retrobrite the monitor because it now matches. So before, it was pretty. You could definitely tell a little bit. Now it's pretty much okay. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about this evening. But of course, we've got housekeeping to do, just like always. I want to thank everybody for sponsoring me over on patreon.com. I just realized it still says Annam instead of Adam. I've got to fix that. I'm so sorry, Adam. But anyway, for as little as $1 a month, you can sponsor my shenanigans over here. But honestly, the money just gets rolled back into supporting so many other great creators on Patreon. Want to make sure to just make sure that people know about some of my latest patrons, like Justin D. Morgan. Justin's actually doing a contest right now where I think he's going to give away a whatever you call it, a Commodore 64 Mini system or something like that. You'll have to go over to his channel and check it out. But he's got a contest running for that. Mike's Mac Shack, who just crossed 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to Mike. Mike's got the view hours, but for whatever reason, he just didn't have the subscriber numbers to monetize. So we'll have to figure it out. Adam just said in chat, "Oh, I want my money back. I want my money back. You spelled my name wrong." Well, that money has already been spent, sir. It's I'm sorry, but we're rest assured that it's being spelled or spent on a better spell checker, so you should be good to go. My good friend Phil Matrisotto, Retroviator, Ian Scott, Eric, and GroupRide. So definitely check out all these wonderful people. Again, thank you so much for sponsoring me. It's very kind of you to do so. RetroTechie just popped up in chat, so sup to you as well, sir. Secret Chicken just popped into chat. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. I got off to a little bit of a weird start because I've got droid cam issues. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's talk about what we're actually going to do this evening, which is we're going to talk about Andy's book. I say Andy as if we're on a first name basis, but One Bit Fever Dreams, welcome to the chat. Thank you for checking out the stream this evening. Yeah, Starbuck Tech. Yeah, Mike does have a potty mouth. He's going to get demonetized on some of those streams. It's pretty crazy the other night. He was working on a power book for me, or he's fixing up a power book that he's going to send to me. And yeah, it went off the rails really quick. So anyway, Andy Hertzfeld, if you're not familiar with who he is, he's an American software engineer and innovator who was a member of the original Apple Macintosh development team in the 1980s. After buying an Apple II in 1978, he went to work for Apple Computer from August 1979 until March of 1984, where he was a designer for the Macintosh system software. Since leaving Apple, he's co-founded 3 companies: Radius, you probably heard of those guys, in 1986, General Magic, which you may not have heard as much about, but that's a super interesting story too, in 1990, and Easel in 1999. In 2002, he helped Mitch Kapoor promote open source software with the Open Source Application Foundation. Hertzfeld worked at Google from 2005 until 2013, where in 2011 he was a key designer in the Circles user interface of Google+. Real shame about Google+. I actually saw a vehicle today, like for somebody that does like a lawn care service, that they had like all the little stickers on the back of the car where they had like Facebook and they had Twitter and they had a Google Plus sticker on there too. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that was just kind of here and gone. MySpace is still around, but for some reason Google Plus just couldn't make it. All right, so anyway, his Wikipedia article, very interesting read on kind of the history of what he's been doing. But why we're here this evening is talk about a cool website that Andy made, which is called folklore.org. And what folklore.org kind of catalogs are cool stories from the time that Andy worked at Apple, starting out kind of on the Apple II side of things and some of the neat projects that he was part of. Like he's worked kind of as a tangent to the Apple Mouse project and just tons of other things, and wrote a lot of cool software kind of at the beginning for the Macintosh and all the type of. They're cool stories. You should just go read them. They're very easy to sort of figure out because you've got everything kind of split up by topics. And then if there's a certain person that you want to hear stories about, they're also indexed, or actually authors and then the characters of different people. There's even a couple stories about John Scully from kind of that era. But it's funny. I think that these stories are good-natured and very much kind of tell the tale of what was going on. Now, the book is nice because the book does have some photography and things like that. And some of the stories are maybe better curated than they are on the website. But largely the content is the same. So let's say that you're interested in learning more about the book. There's a Wikipedia article where you can kind of read some more stuff about that as well. And the book itself was actually released by O'Reilly Press, and 2004. So I mean, it's been out a good long time. So no spoilers here, folks. But you would definitely want to maybe search for a copy. I mean, you can pick up a used copy on eBay pretty inexpensively. That's where I got my copy. You can also check your local library, which I was talking with Eric Helgeson earlier today. And he was like, yeah, you ought to throw in, pitch something for the libraries. And I was like, yeah, man, you're absolutely right. So I think what I'm going to do after I'm done with the stream tonight, I think I'm going to try to get a couple of copies and see if I can donate I'm going to verify if my local library has it, and then if they don't, I'm going to donate a copy. Maybe try to do that for some other local libraries, schools, and things like that, because it's all very clean. It's a G-rated book. So, anyway, looking at the chat, Eric says, yeah, great stuff on folklore.org. Yeah, absolutely. RetroTechie, what's Apple? That's a too deep of a concept, or too deep of a topic that we're going to get into tonight. You probably have to Google it or something. Jeremy says, I'm writing an essay on Linux history, so if I missed anything, I missed it. Oh, I guess maybe you did. Adam says, I'd rather hear stories about Dana Scully. Maybe so. I always thought X-Files was funny, how, basically she's a non-believer, and then the second that David Duchovny left the show, she just oh, sorry, I'm 100% all in on this crazy stuff that he used to believe. Always funny, so. All right, let's see if we can actually switch over to DroidCam, if DroidCam is awake. No, it's not awake. So, it is awake. Oh, well, good. That's great. All right, so I'm going to get the mic moved over here. And I've got my chat up on my iPad, just making sure that that's okay. If everything looks good on your end as well, let me make sure I've got this all kind of... Yeah, that looks good. I've got my retro towel, so I feel good about that. You've got to always have your good retro towel. If you want one of these, I think these are made by Canon or somebody. Home decor kind of company from the 1970s. They're maybe still around. Who knows? But Adrian Black and everybody, this is the brand of a retro towel that you want to use. Let's see. Do we lose DroidCam again? No, it's up. All right, good. Okay, it just made the screen go black. Okay. So let me make sure I'm all sized up here. Hey, I'm sized up here. Okay. So I have some notes and stuff that I took because I was reading this when I was on vacation, but let's just drink this in, shall we? Yeah, it is a really nice retro towel. I love my 70s retro towel. Okay. So Revolution in the Valley by Andy Hertzfeld. And again, there are some really nice little, stuff here that's not on folklore.org that really kind of makes this kind of its own unique experience reading the book versus trying to actually, just read the website. So, but yeah, there's some really neat stuff in here. And I have pored over this because I just remember as a kid, I always loved looking at all the little minutia of different things. So very beautiful book. Lots of great photography. The dedication says, for my wife Joyce, my stepson Nick, and my best friend Burrell Smith, and the rest of the original Macintosh team. Joke being there is Burrell Smith. If he wanted you to do something, he'd make the best friend promise. So there's a ton of different stories in here, but I think I'm just going to kind of go through and maybe read a few here at the beginning, just for that way that so if people do want to kind of keep on and maybe read this on their own and not have it ruined, they can do so. But let's read the foreword. The foreword is by Steve Wozniak. It says, there are occasionally short windows in time when incredibly important things get invented that shape the lives for humans for hundreds of years. These events are impossible to anticipate, and the inventors, the participants, and often working not for reasons of money, but for personal satisfaction of making something great. The development of the Macintosh computer was one of those events, and it has changed our lives forever. Every computer today is basically a Macintosh, a very different type of computer from those that preceded it. Who were the people who developed this revolutionary computer? What motivated them? What advancements did they make? How were trade-offs made? What was the environment like where it happened? The answers to some of these questions can be derived from other books, but they too often have the flavor of highly edited reality TV scripted by outsiders who weren't there. I occasionally read an article based on good, exhaustive reporting that gets to the heart and soul of this computer and of the people who created it. but none of them do as well as this book. Revolution in the Valley, the insanely great story of how the Mac was made, is a collection of stories by the actual personalities who gave life to this amazing computer, and it's more captivating than any book or article I have read. As you'll soon discover, these are people whose passions for doing great things has never before been captured, until now. It's chilling to recall how this cast of young and inexperienced people who cared more than anything about doing great things created what is perhaps the key technology of our lives. Their own words and images take me back to those rare days when the rules of innovation were guided by internal rewards and not by money. Steve Wozniak. So there is quite a long introduction to the book that everybody can read if they want. I will leave this to you. I do not believe that this is actually out on folklore.org. So you probably, this is some unique content. But some of the people that you'll see in the book, or everybody knows about Bill Atkinson, Steve Capps. There are a lot of the people that were kind of there kind of from the beginning doing really interesting things. Of course, Andy has got stuff in the book. Joanna Hoffman, Steve Horn, not glossing over anybody. Some Steve Jobs guy. Jeff Raskin, who was kind of, there's some interesting stories in here about him, because he was part of that original team of people that was kind of charged with figuring out what they were going to do about the creation of the Macintosh. And Jeff had his own ideas on things that very much got replaced when they started seeing prototypes kind of from other people. And Jeff left Apple to create a computer with Canon computer that was called the Cat, which is sort of like a very advanced word processor more than anything else, but still pretty neat. Burrell Smith, of course, he's just a funny guy, and Steve Wozniak. But some of this artwork and stuff in here, there's stories about how like everything was originally kind of square, and they sort of challenged each other to do great things, like figure out how to do rounded corners on squares, just because the math involved with calculating all of that was a little bit more than what the 68,000 was probably up to in those days. But okay, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Alan Kay. So this is one of those Burrell Smith stories. So let me go ahead and read this. So there's Andy and there's Burrell. Is that who the heck is that again? Oh yeah, Brian Howard. Okay, so here we go. Towards the end of my first week as an Apple employee in August of 1979, I noticed that someone had left a black binder on my desk with a handwritten card that read, Apple II Principles of Operation. The binder contained a brilliant, concise description of how the Apple II hardware worked, reverently explaining details of Steve Wozniak's epic creation. Did I skip something? No. Epic creative design hacks in a clearer fashion than I'd ever read before. I didn't know who had left it there, but the title page said that it was written by Burrell C. Smith. Later the same day, I was approached by a young, animated, slightly nervous guy with long, straight, blonde hair who entered my cubicle and walked right up to me. "Are you Andy Hertzfeld?" he asked. "Wow, it's amazing to meet you. I read your articles in Call Apple and Dr. Dobbs. Apple's lucky to have gotten you to work here. I want to shake your hand." With exaggerated formality, he extended his right arm stiffly, almost in a parody of a handshake offer. "I'm Burrell Carver Smith. Pleased to meet you. I wrote that manual and left it on your desk," he said, pointing to the black binder. We shook hands, and then he suddenly turned around nervously and darted off without explanation. "See you later," he said, without looking back. My cubicle in Brandy 1 was in the hardware engineering section because of my first project, which was writing the firmware for the Silent Type thermal printer. I was across the aisle from Wendell Sanders' office. Wendell was the designer of the Apple III and an extremely brilliant and seasoned engineer who used to design RAM chips for Fairchild and who understood the Apple II hardware design inside and out. All of the other hardware engineers on the team, except Woz, essentially came to Wendell for advice. I noticed that Burrell, even though he was supposed to be working in the service department in a different building, often hung around outside of Wendell's office. Sometimes he waited hours for Wendell to have a free moment so that he could ask him to verify some latest insight about the Apple II's timings. At times, when Wendell was busy, he would try the insight out on me instead, or discuss the finer points of the Apple II's firmware. Soon, we started to occasionally go out to lunch together. The first time we went to lunch, I found out that Burrell's creativity extended beyond his engineering work. He would often try to convince our waitress to concoct variations of the standard fare on the menu, thinking of something slightly different every time. For example, after he successfully persuaded the waitress to divide his pizza toppings into thirds, he asked her to do fifths the next time. Or he ordered mixed sodas as if they were cocktails in ever-varying proportions, like 3/4 Coke and 1/4 Sprite. The waitress often balked, but Burrell was sometimes charming enough to convince her to comply. He was also obsessed with certain foods, becoming fixated on Bulgarian beef sandwiches from Vivi's for a while, then going on to pineapple pizza. And there's a story it's called Pineapple Pizza in here. Before evolving to his most enduring favorite, sushi, which provided a new range of interesting choices and combinations. Burrell had a distinctive way of expressing himself, often by applying technical jargon to ordinary life, like describing situations as metastable, or someone being a state machine, mixed with a dash of baby talk, such as adding plurals to people's names. An attractive woman was referred to as a good prototype, or a good proto for short. Burrell had a great sense of humor and periodically performed hilarious imitations of everyone else on the team, characterizing their personality quirks with an incisive phrase or nickname. See, I invented Burrell. It's another story. He also liked to make fun of various language conventions. For example, when pleased with new software, he would say, happiness, software. One of his favorite expressions was, I'll be your best friend. He offered his best friendship for a wide variety of activities, like making some change in the software for him or getting him a Coke at the gas station. Best friendship takes place, he would declare, if pleased with the results. He also had a habit of reducing phrases to initials like BFR for best friend relationship. Once, right after Burrell conferred best friendship upon me, I heard him offer best friendship to someone else for a different favor. Wait a second, I challenged Burrell. How can you give out your best friendship to somebody else? There can only be one best friend at a time, can't there? Burrell had a quick reply, delivered with a smile. Of course there can only be one best friend at any given moment. Best friendship relationships have a highly dynamic, or can be highly dynamic. The average length of a best friendship is 3 to 5 milliseconds, so there's no problem in having a new BFR a second or two later. So you can kind of hear like some of the personalities of the folks. We'll read a couple of other ones here. Maybe we'll skip down to definitely something that is Macintosh related. Oh, it's the mustache that matters, that's for sure. If you want to get promoted, you gotta have a good mustache. Yeah, Black Monday is pretty crazy story. Okay. So, this story is about Steve Jobs and just sort of the how he worked to try to get people to do the things that he wanted them to do, which often was at odds with reality, because he decided that he wanted something to be a certain way, and that's okay, but it doesn't always match up with production timelines and all of that. So, all right. So, reality distortion field. This is a story where Bud defines Steve's unique talent. I officially started on the Mac project on a Thursday afternoon, and Bud Tribble, my new manager, and the only other software person on the project, was out of town. Bud was on a leave of absence basically he was trying to finish up his doctorate, MD PhD program, and he occasionally had to return to Seattle to keep up his standings with the program. Bud usually didn't come into work until after lunch, so I met with him for the first time the following Monday afternoon. We started talking all about the work that had to be done, which was pretty overwhelming. He showed me the official software development schedule that had a shipping in about 10 months, or what would have been early January of 1982. Bud, that's crazy, I told him. We've barely even started. There's no way that we can get it done by then. I know, he responded in a low voice, almost a whisper. So maybe I should have said, I know. You know, if you know the schedule is off base, why don't you correct it? Well, it's Steve. Steve insists that we're shipping in early 1982, and he won't accept answers to the contrary. The best way I can describe the situation is a term from Star Trek. Steve has a reality distortion field. A what? A reality distortion field. In his presence, reality is malleable. He can convince anyone of practically anything. It wears off when he's not around, but it makes it hard to have realistic schedules. And there's a couple of other things that you should know before you start working with Steve. What's that? Well, just because he tells you something is awful or great, it doesn't necessarily mean he feels that way tomorrow. You have to have low-pass filter. You have to low-pass filter his output, or his input, rather. And then, he's really funny about ideas. If you tell him a new idea, he'll usually tell you that he thinks it's stupid. But then, if he actually likes it, exactly 1 week later, he'll come back to you and propose your idea to you, as if he thought of it. I thought Bud was surely exaggerating, until I observed Steve in action over the next few weeks. The reality distortion field was a confounding melange of charismatic rhetoric style, an indomitable will, and an eagerness to bend any fact to fit the purpose at hand. If one line of argument fails to persuade, he would definitely switch to another. Sometimes he would throw you off balance by suddenly adapting your position to his own, without acknowledging that he ever thought differently. Amazingly, the reality distortion field seemed to be effective even if you were acutely aware of it. Although the effects would fade after Steve departed, we would often discuss techniques for grounding it. And then there's a reference to another story that's called You Gonna Do It? But after a while, most of us gave up, accepting it as a force of nature. And that's something that you, I guess, kind of often hear about jobs, and how basically he just got his way. Like, he just got his way. He was tough to work with, I guess. This here is a story about the Lisa that's called Square Dots. The Lisa had a different screen resolution than the Macintosh, is kind of the header. And the story is dated from April of 1981. From the beginning, even before it had a mouse, the Lisa was designed to be an office machine, and word processing was considered to be its most important use. In the late 70s, the acid test for an office computer, as compared to a hobby computer, was its ability to display 80 columns of text. The Lisa team decided to optimize their display for horizontal resolution in order to display 80 columns of text in an attractive font. The vertical resolution wasn't as important because vertical scrolling works much better for text than horizontal scrolling. The designers decided to endow the Lisa with twice as much horizontal space, but as vertical, by using a 720 by 360 pixel display with pixels that were twice as high as they were wide. This was great for text-oriented applications like a word processor, but it made things somewhat awkward for graphics applications. When Burrell redesigned the Macintosh in December of 1980 to use the same microprocessor as the Lisa, the Motorola 68000, it set off shockwaves within Apple. Not only was Burrell's new design much simpler than the Lisa's, with less than half the chip count, but it also ran twice as fast, using an 8 MHz clock instead of the 5 MHz clock that was present in the Lisa. Among these advantages was the fact that the Macintosh's 384 by 256 pixel display had the identical horizontal and vertical resolution, a feature we called square dots. Square dots made it easier to write graphical applications because it didn't have to worry about the resolution disparity. Bill Atkinson, the author of QuickDraw, was the main Lisa graphics programmer and was a strong advocate of square dots, but not everybody on the Lisa team felt the same way. Tom Malloy was Apple's first hire from Xerox PARC and the principal author of the Lisa word processor. Though it was better to have the increased horizontal resolution, horizontal resolution. But Burrell's redesign moved the debate from the theoretical to the pragmatic by creating a square dot machine to compare with the Lisa. The Lisa's hardware was scheduled to go through a final round of design tweaks, and Bill tried to convince the Lisa team to switch to square dots. He mentioned his desire to Burrell, who responded by working over the weekend to sketch out a scaled-up version of the Macintosh design that features a full 16-bit memory bus with a 768 by 512K display and square dots. It would also run twice as fast as the Lisa design. Bill convinced the Lisa engineering manager, Wayne Rosling, that he should at least consider adopting some of Burrell's ideas. He arranged for the leadership of the Lisa team to get a demo of the current Macintosh and learn about Burrell's new scaled-up design. Wayne Rosling led a delegation of his top hardware and software guys, including Rich Page and Paul Baker, and software manager Bruce Daniels, over to Texaco Towers for a demo on a Monday morning. Texaco Towers was, I guess, one of their office buildings, so I had a Texaco station, so that's why they named it that. Bill Atkins did the talking while we ran various graphics demos, and then Burrell gave a presentation on the Mac's design and his ideas for scaling up to 768 by 512 display. Everyone seemed pretty excited, impressed, and Bill was optimistic that they would make the change. After a few days, Bill told us the disappointing news that Wayne had decided there wasn't enough time to embark on such a radical redesign because the Lisa was scheduled to ship in less than a year. It ended up shipping almost 2 years later with the original 720 by 360 resolution. It also had a relatively slow microprocessor that became a problem when Apple decided to offer Macintosh compatibility mode for the Lisa in 1984. The emulation software didn't try to compensate for the different resolutions, so applications were distorted by the resolution disparity. It was almost like looking at a funhouse mirror. The problem wasn't resolved until the Lisa was discontinued in the spring of 1985. So I love stories like this, because if you work in a production environment, or if you work in any place where you have to justify your ideas on a project to a team, there are a lot of times where people get spooked and they don't want to make changes. They just can't make changes because if you don't ship in time, if you don't make the date, it's basically death for a lot of these projects. So let's take a look at chat and let's see how people are doing. Code Professor says, technically, you indirectly came from... Oh, well, who knows? I didn't see that part of the conversation. But Code Professor, hey, thanks, and thanks for joining the chat. Good to see you. Let's check. Anybody new? Anybody new here? Thomas Armstrong? Yeah, you're already here. Hey, it's Rudy from Rudy's Retro Intel. Sorry I'm late. Was playing games on my Atari 2600. Nope, I understand it. I understand. That is totally fine by me. Oh yeah, this is kind of the, I guess, the genesis of maybe like a bicycle for your mind. Is that the story? Anyway, let's try it. This story is this article rather is titled "Bicycle." It's from April of 1981. A lot of these are at the beginning of the book. It's all kind of mostly chronological. I think there's a story somewhere in here that it does take place out of order, but it makes more sense because I guess then there's no spoilers. But Rod wants to change the name of the project. Jeff Raskin chose the name Macintosh after his favorite kind of apple. When Jeff was forced to go on an extended leave of absence in February of 1981, remember, going back to finish that degree up, Steve Jobs and Rod Holt decided to change the name of the project, partially to distance it from Jeff. They considered the Macintosh to be a code name anyway, and they didn't want us to get too attached to it. Apple had recently taken out a 2-page ad in Scientific American that featured quotes from Steve about the wonders of personal computers. The ad explained how humans were not fast runners, as many other species, but a human on a bicycle beat them all, and personal computers were a bicycle for the mind. A month or so after Jeff's departure, Rod Holt announced to the small design team that the new code name for the project was Bicycle, and that we would all change all references from Macintosh to Bicycle. When we objected, thinking Bicycle was a silly name, Rod responded by saying it shouldn't matter since it's only a code name. Rod's edict was never obeyed. Somehow Macintosh just seemed right. It was already ingrained with the team, and the Bicycle name seemed forced and inappropriate. So no one but Rod ever called it Bicycle. For a few weeks, Rod reprimanded anyone who called it Macintosh in his presence, but the new name never really acquired any momentum. Finally, about a month after his final order, after someone called it Macintosh again, he threw up his hands in exasperation and told us, "I give up. You can call it Macintosh if you want. It's only a code name anyway." But it was a code name that proved to be pretty sturdy and resilient. In the fall of 1982, Apple paid tens of thousands of dollars for a marketing consulting firm to come up with a themed set of names for Lisa and Macintosh. They came up with lots of ideas, including called the Mac the Apple 40, the Apple Allegro. But after hearing all the suggestions, Steve and the marketing team decided to go with Lisa and Macintosh as the official names. They did manage to reverse engineer an acronym for Lisa, which was Local Integrated System Architecture, but internally was referred to the recursive Lisa Invented Stupid Acronym, or something like that. Macintosh seemed to be acronym proof, but there was still a final hurdle to clear. The name was too close to a trademark from the Macintosh Stereo Company. I'm not sure how the situation was resolved. I suspect that Apple paid them a modest amount. But towards the end of our big off-site meeting held in Carmel in January of 1983, Steve announced to the team we had gotten the rights to use the name. He dashed a champagne bottle against one of the prototypes and declared, "I christened thee Macintosh." So there's a little section over here. Oh yeah, hey, Geek with Social Skills. Thanks for showing up, man. I really appreciate it. It was good to see you, Baby Boomer Twerk Team. I love your name. It's hilarious. But there's a little inset here that has a quote from Jeff Raskin, and it says, "The tree-grown apple is spelled Macintosh, like MC, like my Mick Adams kind of last name. But that's harder to type and was also the name of a maker of audio equipment. I had hoped the change of spelling would avoid trademark infringement, as both the spelling and the field of commerce were different. The ploy didn't work. I was later told that Apple had not only made a deal with Macintosh, but also with the Macintosh people who make the famous overcoats of the same name." And that's funny too, because if you search on eBay, you'll find a lot of stuff. Like if you search for Mac or you search for Macintosh, it's a big brand, I guess, in the UK, especially, of almost so that it's kind of become like Kleenex. So it's like you put on your Mac, it's like you put on your raincoat. There's a great story in here about the Osborne and stuff too. Just basically how it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna kick your butt kind of thing. So that's a cute one. Let's read that one. A message for Adam. This is from April of 1981. So this is definitely before anything shipped. Hopefully you guys can see. I see some reflections there on the left, because that's where the light is for the... let me see. Maybe if I can move the light, it might give you guys fewer... Let's see. I got to wait for the stream to update here. Oh, yeah. Maybe... I don't know. I think I need to get a diffuser on this. Because we're gonna have goofiness, I think, no matter what we do. But I'd sure like for you guys to be able to really see this without it being too blown out on the stream. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Let's go with that for a little bit. Oh man, but this is tough for me to read now. I gotta stop looking at the light. A message for Adam. We encounter Adam Osborne at the West Coast Computer Fair. The Apple II was officially introduced at the first West Coast Computer Fair in April of 1977, which was one of the very first trade shows dedicated to the newly emerging microcomputer industry. I loved the computer fairs because passionate hobbyists attended them in the days before commercial forces completely dominated. In April 1981, a few members of the Mac team took the afternoon off and drove to San Francisco to visit the 7th West Coast Computer Fair in Brooks Hall. The biggest splash of the show was the unveiling of the Osborne 1 from a brand new company named Osborne Computer, which was touted as the world's first portable computer. The Osborne 1 was the brainchild of Adam Osborne, a well-known figure in the world of early microcomputers. Adam was a technical writer who founded a publishing company to publish crucial information about microprocessors and software that was sorely lacking at the time. The computer was eventually sold to McGraw-Hill, and Adam became a controversial columnist for opining on an industry from his pulpit in InfoWorld and other publications. He had a populist vision of computing that touted a no-frills, low-cost, high-volume approach to the business. In 1981, he decided to put his theories to practice and founded Osborne Computer Company to design, manufacture, and market the Osborne 1, a low-cost, one-piece, portable computer complete with a suite of bundled applications. He recruited Lee Felsenstein, already a microcomputing legend, as the master of ceremonies at the Homebrew Computer Club, to design the hardware. Now they were introducing the fruits of their labor at the West Coast Computer Fair, just as Apple had done 4 years earlier. The Osborne 1 was on display at their crowded booth near the center of Brooks Hall. It looked like an oversized lunchbox with a keyboard on the back of the lid. It was crammed full with 2 floppy drives and a tiny 5-inch monitor in the center. We were a little surprised because it looked uncannily like Jeff Raskin's early designs for Macintosh, but Steve had recently abandoned for a vertically oriented design. Portable was sort of a euphemism because the Osborne 1 weighed 25 pounds, but at least it fit under an airline seat. Barely. As Macintosh elitists, we were suitably grossed out by the character-based CP/M applications, which seems especially clumsy on the tiny scrolling screen. We worked our way up to the front of the crowd to get a good look at the units on display. We started to ask one of the presenters a technical question, and were surprised to see Adam Osborne himself standing a few feet from us, looking at our show badges, preempting the response. "Oh, some Apple folks," he addressed us in a condescending tone. "What do you think? The Osborne 1's going to outsell the Apple II by a factor of 10. Don't you think so? What part of Apple do you work for?" When we told him that we were on the Mac team, he started to chuckle. "The Macintosh. I heard about that. When am I actually going to see it?" Go back and tell Steve Jobs the Osborne 1 is going to outsell the Apple II and the Macintosh combined. So after returning to Cupertino later that afternoon, we told Steve about our encounter with Adam Osborne. He grinned with sort of mock anger, grabbed the telephone on the spare desk in Bud's office, and called information for the number for Osborne Computer. He dialed the number, and a secretary answered. "Hi, this is Steve Jobs. I'd like to speak to Adam Osborne." The secretary informed Steve that Mr. Osborne would not be back in the office until the following morning. She asked Steve if he would like to leave a message. Yeah, Steve said. He paused for a second. Here's my message. Tell Adam he's an asshole. There was a long delay as the secretary tried to figure out how to respond. Steve continued. One more thing. I hear Adam's curious about the Macintosh. Tell him the Macintosh is so good, he's probably going to buy a few of them for his children, even though it puts his company out of business. Yeah, that's some strong words. So I wonder who won that. Little debate there, because it was probably Apple Computer, I'm gonna say. So checking the chat again. Hey, Justin D. Morgan, good to see you, sir. I was telling people about your contest. You ought to let people in the chat know how to get to that. Adam and RetroTech Chris are both, and Sean, Geek with Social Skills, they're all admins. So if you send them a link, they can probably put a link in chat for your contest, man. So, oh yeah, pineapple pizza. Yeah. Yeah, there's Burrell. Goofy guy. Okay. Osborne did not plan for flat growth and it killed them. Yeah, probably so. I think it's one of those things where a lot of those micros at the time, especially like those 8-bit machines, they just kind of had like their own weird way. And if you were not part of that community, it was really tough to get in, I think. So I always had good luck with the Apple II stuff, mostly because people were just very kind and just wanted you to play their reindeer games with them. Actually, I might put a little something behind my book here, because I am... Uh-oh. Alright, let's see what happened with Droid Cam. Oh, man. I hate it. Did it crash? Yeah, it crashed. Alright, let's try it again. Hey, there we go. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. Goofy Droid Cam. Let me see. Do I have something that I could put behind this book to prop it up a tiny bit? Would a laptop hard drive work? Yeah, probably so. Yeah, that takes a little bit of the glare off from me at least. So, let's see. Did we fail again? Yes, we failed again. Alright. Let's try one more time. Alright. Here we are. We're back again. Yeah, I really hate that. That's a real pain. I'm gonna have to figure out what's wrong with this phone. I don't know what the deal is. Alright. So, yeah, we're back for the moment. We'll see. If it goes out again, we'll figure out what we're gonna do next. But let me go ahead, let me read one more story. Let's see. How long have we been going here? Let me move some of the stuff around. Oh yeah, we're about at the hour mark. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna read this one last story, the pineapple pizza story, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do next. So, all right, pineapple pizza, May of 1981. We stay late to bring up the first printed circuit board. When I began working on the Macintosh project in February of 1981, there was still only one 68,000 base Macintosh prototype in existence. The initial digital board that was wire wrapped by Burrell himself. It was now sitting in the corner of Bud Tribble's office on one of the empty desks, attached to a small 7-inch monitor. When powered up, the code in the boot ROM filled the screen with the word hello in a tiny font, crisply rendered on the distinct black and white display. Dan Cottle and Brian Howard were already busy wire wrapping more prototype boards, carefully following Burrell's drawings. About a week after I received the second prototype for my office so that I could work on the low-level I/O routines, interface the disk and keyboard, while Bud worked on the mouse driver and ported Bill's graphics routines. The next big step for the hardware was to lay out a printed circuit board. We recruited Colette Askeladd, the best PC board layout technician in the company, from the Apple II group. Burrell spent a week or two working intensely with Colette, who used a specialized CAD system located in Brandley 3 to input the topology and route the signals, and eventually created a tape. There he goes again. Urgh! Droid cam. I just want to kill you. I'm going to have to replace this phone. Or maybe get another solution or something. Probably work on another solution. So don't worry, we're back. Colette, who used a specialized CAD system located in Brandley 3 to input the topology and route the... I lost my place. And route the signals, and eventually created a tape containing all the information needed to fabricate the boards. Burrell and Brian checked and rechecked the layout, which was tediously expressed as thousands of node connections. After a day or two, they decided that they were ready to send it out for fabrication. We were hoping to get a first sample board back before the weekend, but it looked as though it wasn't going to make it. However, around 4:30 p.m. on Friday afternoon, they arrived. Burrell figured it would take at least 2 or 3 hours to assemble a board, and then even longer to troubleshoot the inevitable mistakes. So it was too late to try to get a board working that evening. Maybe Burrell and Brian would come in on Saturday and get started. Or maybe they'd wait until Monday morning. While they were discussing it, Steve Jobs strolled into the hardware lab, excited as usual. "Hey, I heard the PC boards finally arrived. Are they going to work? When will you have one working?" Burrell explained the boards had just arrived, and then it would take a couple of hours to probably assemble one, so they were thinking about starting the next morning or maybe waiting until Monday. "Monday? Are you kidding?" replied Steve. "It's your PC board, Burrell. Don't you want to see if it works tonight? I'll tell you what, if you can get it to work this evening, I'll take you and everyone else who sticks around out for pineapple pizza." Steve knew that pineapple pizzas had recently become Bulgarian beef for Burrell's latest food obsession. I'm just going to read it in the dark, guys, okay? Sorry. I'll start over. Steve knew pineapple pizzas had recently become Bulgarian beef as Burrell's latest food obsession. As a staunch vegetarian, he thought it was a positive development, and that Burrell wanted a pineapple pizza pretty much every chance he could get it. Burrell looked at Brian Howard and shrugged. "Okay, we might as well give it a shot now, but I don't think we're going to be able to get it working before the restaurant closes." So Burrell and Brian got busy. They selected a board, stuffed it with sockets, and carefully soldered them in place, while 5 or 6 of us, including Steve, sat around and kibitzed. Burrell was a little tense and impatient because he didn't like the pressure of bringing up a board in front of so many spectators. Every 5 minutes or so, we referred to the awaiting pineapple pizza and speculated about how good it was going to taste. Finally, around 8 p.m. or so, the board was assembled enough to try to power it up for the first time. The prototype was hooked up to the Apple II power supply and a small monitor, fired up as we held our breath. The screen should have been filled with hellos, but instead all it displayed was a checkerboard pattern. Dun, dun, dun. We were disappointed except for Burrell. "Well, that's not bad," he commented. "It means the RAM and the video generation are more or less working. The processor isn't resetting, but it looks like we're getting close." He turned and looked directly at Steve. "But I am too hungry to keep working. I think it's time for pineapple pizza." Steve smiled and agreed it was good enough for a first night, and it was time to celebrate. The 7 or 8 of us who stayed late drove in 3 cars to Burrell's favorite Italian restaurant, Frankie, Johnny, and Luigi's in Mountain View, where we ordered 3 large pineapple pizzas, which tasted great. All right. Coming back over to the lobby, y'all. Sorry, man. I'm going to have to do something. I'm not sure, what's going on with that camera, but, it's always something, right? So, I just thought that this would be fun to kind of get together and maybe as part of the celebration of Macintosh to read some stuff maybe about the early days of Apple. There are just some great stories in here, and if you get later in the book, it talks about I think there are some stories in here about his time or founding General Magic. and all of that, and just some of the ideas and things that they had. Yeah, here's another funny picture of Burrell. Yeah, there's so many great photos in here of like the team, so it's definitely worth picking up. You can probably get a copy pretty cheap. There was something else in here. That there's a really great story about Thunderscan, which is, if you guys remember that, it was a way to take your ImageWriter printer, and it would basically go through and scan things back when scanners were crazy expensive. So I used to I worked for a school, and we had like tons of those that came through. I guess they gave one to like almost every teacher. So when they weren't printing banners in Paint Shop Pro, they were definitely printing up some or scanning stuff to then print in other applications, I guess. But yeah, pretty neat for something kind of way back in the day like that. But anyway, I don't have a whole lot else going on. I'm probably gonna do I gotta build some Blue Scuzzy stuff over the weekend. I wanted to do another shorts video because I ended up getting some very pretty RAM in the mail from Silicon Insider that I need to actually install in my Quadra 700. Look at this, beautiful. It's one of every color, all tested, all beautiful. I gotta get that done this weekend. There's a couple of other things I really need to take a look at, so I will do all of those things, I suppose. But I'm thinking probably what my my thing is I'm gonna probably gonna get another one of these cameras like this for over there, because I think it looks really good. I think it's a good looking camera. So let's check the chat here. Aaron of, I'm gonna say Minneapolis. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Justin D. Morgan tagged me here, and he says, took your advice and corrected my YouTube channel name. Notice anything different? Well, let's go look. Let me go and take a look there, Mr. Man, and see if I do notice. I saw your other video. Oh, it is. Oh, you named your channel Justin D. Morgan. I love it, because the D stands for delightful, I'm going to say. I don't know for sure, but Adam says, I took some round computer video stickers and put them on things I didn't want anymore. You need to communicate with Steve, because I need him to not want that tech step, and I need him to not want that that Apple Power CD. I still need a base for my Apple Power CD. But I guess, I can't remember, Steve said that somebody looked into it, because I wasn't 100% sure kind of what's going on with the base of that. But I guess there is some specialized hardware in there that actually makes the Apple Power CD, like kind of, I guess the SCSI part of things exist in there. So it's really like adapting SCSI to whatever the interface is that's on the back of it. But it's weird because the Apple one is actually 25 pins. It's like a DB25 connection, like SCSI. And the third party, or the other ones, I guess Philips or somebody, that sounds right for that era. But they, the one they had has like a weird, like a DB9 or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for the stream this evening. I might do some stuff tomorrow, but I'll advertise it with plenty of time. I'm going to do my best not to bump into anybody else's stream or anything. So, everybody, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget, you can, I guess I got to go over to the web to do this. Oh, yeah, there's Justin D. Morgan's channel. It's a great name. Yeah, don't forget, enter his contest. But don't forget that you can check out a lot of the stories that we read this evening over there on folklore.org. Oh, Adam says he's going to find one for me. Please do, sir. I'd really like one. It doesn't have to work. It doesn't even have to work. I just want one to, like, prop up my... I just want it to prop my stuff up. Rudy's off. Did Joe send you the Macintosh SE yet? Yes, it just arrived today. So that's part of what I'm going to do tomorrow, because I got to spin up that Blue SCSI and everything for it. And I got to start retrobriding that keyboard and some other things for the the giveaway. I keep saying contest. I'm just going to say giveaway because it makes more sense. But don't forget, you can check out some of those cool stories over there on folklore.org. You can probably also pick up a copy of the book, Revolution in the Valley, the insanely great story of how the Macintosh was made. You can maybe find it at your local library or pick it up used on eBay or something. I do know, I think you can still buy it on that place that Space Baldy, that Space Baldy's website probably has some copies out there for sale too. But definitely check it out. It's a great book. I've enjoyed reading it. I think I've probably read folklore.org back to front. So, but anyway, all right, everybody. Hey, thanks again for stopping by. As always, again, I'm Ron, your host with Ron's Computer Videos. Everybody, when is movie night? I have no idea. One of these nights soon. I would love to find, like a public domain movie and just riff it or something like that. Maybe I'll do that one of these days. Okay, so don't forget. That's not where I want to go. I want to go to the follow page. Don't forget, you can follow me over on twitter.com/Ron's Comp Vids. You've already found the YouTube channel. Congrats. Don't forget, I gotta fix the Patreon thing too. I don't know how so many typos and so many bad things. I gotta fix all this stuff. But anyway, everybody, thank you again. Have yourself a wonderful evening. And remember, as I always say, Apple II forever. Good night, everybody.